Part 1 Introduction. The world of ours is incredibly vast and constantly witnesses significant events unfolding every single day. Sometimes these events can completely alter the lives of countless individuals. Comprehending what is happening around us is absolutely essential. Today's story will recount a major global shift, helping you realize how various aspects of life are deeply interconnected. Currently, there is a highly tense situation between two nations, the United States and Iran. They possess entirely contrasting ideologies and objectives. This disagreement has persisted and grown increasingly severe, evolving into a major conflict. This is not a minor issue, as it impacts numerous people and regions halfway across the globe. Leaders of both nations continuously voice their stances and articulate what they wish to achieve. Both the United States and Iran are powerful countries, meaning their actions can trigger colossal repercussions. Closely monitoring this conflict reveals how nations interact during times of crisis. Leaders frequently use speeches to convey their thoughts to their citizens and the world. News reporters attentively listen to these speeches to broadcast the information everywhere. Sometimes a leader's words can help find a solution, but other times they can exacerbate the conflict. This story will navigate through various facets. First is politics, where we examine the decisions of leaders. Next is finance, observing how fluctuating oil prices make everyday living expenses much more costly for families. Finally, we will discuss sports, demonstrating that even major political events can touch the lives of athletes. All of this will provide you with a comprehensive overview of what is truly happening in the world. Part 2 A Short War. President Donald Trump spoke about this conflict, declaring to the public that the war with Iran would be extremely brief. He utilized very clear language to describe his predictions, asserting that the fighting would not last. He believed this would be a swift event, concluding in a very short time frame. To convey this message, he referred to the conflict as a short-term excursion. This phrase implied that the war would be like a lightning-fast trip, where the United States would go in, accomplish its necessary objectives, and then the fighting would cease immediately. President Trump wanted everyone to understand that this was not a war that would drag on for months or years. He painted a picture of rapid and decisive military action. Furthermore, Mr. Trump made strong claims about the military situation, informing reporters that the United States was winning. He stated that the Iranian military had suffered heavy casualties, and much of their resources and military equipment were now destroyed or malfunctioning. With supreme confidence, he felt the United States was in an overwhelmingly dominant position, and believed the war was nearly complete. Reporters were present at press conferences to directly listen and carefully document his words. Shortly after, they rapidly disseminated this news through articles, websites, television channels and radio broadcasts. Consequently, people worldwide received the president's message that the war would be short. The United States was winning, and the Iranian military was weakening. These reports strongly shaped the public's perspective on the current state of the conflict. Part 3 not finished yet. However, the government is broadcasting rather contradictory messages regarding this conflict. One day people hear that the fighting will be very short and swift, but the very next day they receive information that it is not yet over. This has created massive confusion for many citizens, making it difficult for them to grasp the actual situation. The differing rhetoric from leaders has blurred the overall picture for everyone watching. Despite previous declarations of a lightning war, the reality on the ground is entirely different. The conflict has not ended today. Although the United States has achieved many successes in the fighting, leaders argue that these successes are still insufficient. There is much more work to be done before the gunfire truly stops. The ultimate goal is far greater than a few isolated victories, and the conflict must continue until certain conditions are met. The core objective here is to achieve total victory. This means winning on every front and completely defeating the opposition, ensuring the enemy no longer has any capacity to fight back. This is a monumental and highly challenging goal for any nation, requiring the war to drag on until one side demonstrates absolute dominance over the other. This intense desire for absolute victory explains why the conflict is still ongoing and cannot end quickly. It consumes a massive amount of time and resources, while profoundly impacting many aspects of life. Any hope for a swift conclusion is fading, as the path to complete victory is always long and fraught with difficulties. Citizens worldwide are watching closely, wondering when the fighting will truly come to a complete halt. Part 4 high oil prices. This conflict is altering numerous things globally, not just limited to soldiers and gunfire, but also heavily impacting how nations trade and conduct business. One of the most crucial commodities is oil. Oil helps run cars, heat homes, and create countless essential daily items. When war breaks out, people begin to fear not having an adequate oil supply. Concerns about scarcity and transportation difficulties cause oil prices to fluctuate extremely rapidly. The global economy feels this shift deeply because so many nations depend on oil. The instability caused by the war makes businesses and citizens feel highly insecure about their finances. Because of these hostilities, the price of oil began to increase at a dizzying pace. While a barrel of oil previously had a relatively comfortable price, it has now surpassed the $100 mark. This is an incredibly expensive price, truly reflecting the world's extreme anxiety over energy supplies. When oil prices surge, the costs of numerous other goods are also pushed up, creating severe consequences for nations that consume oil daily. Everyone monitors oil prices closely, because it acts as a barometer for the global situation. Speeches by leaders, like President Trump, can also alter market psychology. For example, after the president gave a speech suggesting the war might end soon, oil prices actually dropped slightly. This proves that leaders' words have the power to directly impact financial markets. Additionally, transporting oil across oceans via massive ships is also in danger. Many vital sea routes are located too close to war zones, directly threatening the safety of the ships and their crews. When delivery becomes difficult, the available oil in many places decreases, pushing prices even higher. The war has made the seas far less safe for these vital energy supplying journeys. Part 6: Help for sports players. While the whole world is focused on issues of war and money, touching human stories are still spreading. One of them is the story of the Iranian women's football team. They had to travel a very long distance from their homeland to compete in Australia. This was an extremely important trip for them, where the female players tried their best on the pitch. However, before one match took place, a special event occurred. During the national anthem ceremony, normally players sing their country's song, but the Iranian team did not do so. Several female players chose to stand in silence and did not sing the Iranian national anthem. This was a landmark decision for them. Many spectators noticed this moment. It displayed an incredibly strong emotion, without the need for any words. However, right after this act, the players faced a major problem. They began to feel extremely worried and fearful for their own safety. If they had to return to Iran, the global conflict situation had already made many people feel insecure, and now these female players were in a foreign country. After making a public decision to refuse singing the national anthem, this choice could bring extremely severe consequences for them back home. The thought of returning terrified them, because they did not know what terrible things awaited them. News of their fear quickly spread and reached the Australian government. Understanding the dangers the female players might face, Australia decided to lend a helping hand by granting safe humanitarian visas to several members of the team. A humanitarian visa is a special permit that allows people facing danger in their homeland the right to stay in another country. This was absolutely wonderful news, as 5 Iranian female football players received this visa and could continue staying in Australia. They no longer needed to return to Iran immediately, and this decision provided them with an opportunity to be safe. It brought a new hope, allowing them to live on without constantly fearing what might happen if they went home. This story clearly demonstrates how global events can impact human lives in the most unexpected ways. Even within the realm of sports. Part 7: Two sides of the fight. Any major event always has different perspectives, and the conflict between the United States and Iran is no exception. Citizens and leaders in each country view the issue in their own way. To understand the full picture, we must examine the ideas of both sides. President Trump, the leader of the United States, has very clear expectations for this conflict. He wants the war to end as soon as possible, with a resounding and swift victory for his country. He firmly believes the United States has the upper hand, and the Iranian military has suffered heavy damage. His ultimate goal is to end the war rapidly, to prove America's strength and its ability to achieve objectives in a flash. His words always aim to project power and absolute control. On the other end of the line, Iran has a new leader with entirely different ideologies. This leader wants Iran to maintain a resilient stance. He wants to protect his country and his people, believing that fighting back against all attacks is a matter of survival. This demonstrates a strong will of resistance to defend their territory. For Iran, maintaining steadfastness is the key, as they never want to appear weak to the world. The new leader's message focuses on strength and national pride. He wants to ensure Iran is capable of self-defense and ready to continue fighting, if necessary, to prove they are not an easily defeated opponent. To truly grasp this lesson, we need to identify the opposing desires. President Trump wants a quick win, while the Iranian leader wants to demonstrate resilience and protect the nation. When looking from both sides, we better understand why the conflict continues to drag on, and grasp the roots behind each nation's actions. The lesson here is not about choosing sides, but about viewing the world from multiple angles to fully understand the reasons behind global events. Part 8: Waiting for the End. Many people are pondering how this conflict will come to an end. Experts who study war have looked back at history to find answers regarding what makes wars stop. These experts assert that conflicts never end easily. Many factors must occur before the gunfire ceases. One extremely important principle is that both sides must be ready to stop. If only one country desires peace, that is insufficient. Both nations need to find common ground and feel that the time for fighting is over. This moment usually arrives when leaders realize the cost of war has exceeded the limits of endurance, or when they feel they have achieved their set goals. Finding an agreement that satisfies both sides is always a long and arduous process. They must sit at the negotiating table to seek viable solutions. Without these agreements, the fighting could easily be prolonged indefinitely. The whole world is holding its breath, watching this conflict, because it affects much more than just the two warring nations. It devastates the global economy, disrupts oil prices, and triggers the escalating costs of countless essential goods, like food and heating fuel. Therefore, people everywhere are suffering the indirect consequences, and they all long for a quick, peaceful conclusion. Everyone hopes the world can stabilize again, and eagerly awaits new information on when the fighting might stop. This story has taught us many valuable lessons about the world. It shows that the decisions of leaders can change the daily lives of millions of people. It proves how politics is tied to our money through oil prices and inflation. It even demonstrates how global events can directly impact sports through the example of the female football players in Australia. This conflict reminds us that humans from different nations are tightly connected, and what happens in one place can affect people far away. The world continues to nurture hope for a time when both sides can find peace, so the gunfire stops and a more tranquil era can begin.